Hello, Himanshu. Welcome to Polysphere interview.
Hey, Kristen. Nice to meet you guys, finally.
And we are delighted to have the opportunity to invite you. And Sentient has gathered significant attention after announcing its fundraising, and which is now the top fundraising effort in AI sector. So I saw the news released on major platforms like Silicon Angel, Binance, and the mainstream medias in China. With the curiosity of many community members in Chinese, I hope to help them better understand the Sentient. So I think first part, let's talk about the fundraising. The story behind the fundraising, we read that that the project was conceived during a casual chat at Sandeep's house, and almost a spur of the moment idea. So that sounds fascinating. Can you share more about how this idea quickly progressed and secured such significant funding?
Right. So uh, the story is almost that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Although there's a lot of background, so there are these conversations which are very impactful in one's life, which happen once in a while. But it's not like that conversation is the beginning of those things. Those conversations are sort of the conclusion of a long thread of thought, right? Like, for example, I don't know, I'm married, so when you propose to your partner, it's not like that's what made the marriage happen, right? There's a lot of things before it. So that's true. So turns out that Shriram, Pramod, and I, we have been discussing different parts of what's going on in AI, being AI researchers ourselves in the past, and now working in blockchain side. What is it, and how we perceive it, and how it will change the society. The conversation with Pramod, especially with Pramod for me, and Pramod works closely with Shriram also. I also meet Shriram regularly, but not as closely as Pramod. So those conversations are socio-technical all the time. It's like how the technology impacts society and all that. So we had that thing going about where is this AI sector headed, and how what we should build in it, and how blockchains will play a role in it. And then turns out that Sandeep was specifically also thinking about very similar things. So just by chance, because Shriram was visiting Sandeep, these two conversations converged, and very quickly they met, and we decided to brainstorm on what is it that we can do which will actually create a competing force for this closed source AI. And not just because you want to compete, just because it's so important. It's so important to have a counter narrative to closed AI. And that's what this project is about. That's where it started. What will it look like? Is it possible to counter these narratives of $7 trillion raise and all that? These are narratives. There's no $7 trillion raise, but it's a signaling that it can happen. It can potentially happen. And definitely still very big raise, right? Like the numbers and how all technology forces will unify behind OpenAI, and how regulation will unify behind OpenAI from the US side. So what are the counter forces to that which can enable a truly open AI and give same kind of functionality? We don't like how OpenAI is doing it, but everyone likes what they are doing, right? That's amazing. And it's just that they've chosen a very wrong path, and they're basically making it a threat for everyone else. What is the other path which gets to same quality of AI but doesn't have the same threat? That's what Sentient is trying to answer. That's what Sentient Foundation research is trying to answer.
And Sentient raised a sustainable amount of fund, yet the website is built on Notion. There are around 100 people on Discord. This makes people think, is it really so easy to get investors' money now? On the other hand, they wonder if such modest data can secure so much funding, what are their extraordinary qualities? So could you explain the reasons behind Sentient's quick fundraising success?
I think I lost you a little bit in the middle, but I got the gist of that question. So first part you're asking is, there is a substantial raise, but why is the website scrappy, and why a Notion page? Well, websites are cheap. Even if it doesn't take money to make websites. So there's no correlation between money and website. It's just that we feel that, I mean, it's an important point you bring out. We feel that websites are not so important. They try to convey some information, and that can be conveyed on a Notion page. Actually, Notion page probably conveys it better. So we are striving to embrace building in public, as any good crypto project should, and especially as a research oriented crypto project should. And we are trying to see what are the best ways to do it. And we feel that a Notion is a very nice way to build in public. This website, either there are two options. You will either have a design which is already there and someone will copy and you will pay for it. Find some people, get some money for it. Or someone comes up with a new design, but at the end of the day, its job is to convey some information, and that we will be able to do. Having said that, our platform web page will be very different. And that would be the platform would be like a more interactive and what we are used to seeing. This is the foundation web page. We envision this Notion page to show what is our near-term and long-term plan at a high level, and we put our protocol, white paper, and documents on it, and we show where is this research headed, okay, from our side. That's what this Notion page is about. Show the org structure and that kind of thing.
Okay, so it is that the product speaks louder than website.
Website is pointless. I don't even know what's going. I have not gone to let's say OpenAI's website for a while now. I don't know what it's saying. I know in the beginning I remember there was a charter and all that. I don't know what they're saying there. I won't even care about what they're saying. And in fact, famously, Google never had a website, and Google is just the product is the website, right? So when we have a product facing thing, then that will be there. This is a foundation page, and hopefully it does a job in conveying the information. About Discord, it's early. We would love to grow this community. We would love to have a very involved community at all levels, at the level of AI builders who are bringing their best mind forward and contributing to sentient AI, at the level of crypto investors who are looking at AI and thinking of how they can support it, how do they participate in this, right? So we want a very vibrant Discord community. It's only the beginning. We are just starting. Our focus in the beginning has been to get our protocol out, and this SBC will be announcing a protocol. So that's the current focus for us. And community buildup is also going in parallel.
Yeah. I think it's very great to hear that, because in Web3 industry, people focus on the narratives more than the product. So they pay so much attention on the website, on the other advertising stuff. But it is true that the product, is the most essential part of the project.
So I think this is I see this discussion quite a bit on Twitter now about how you should ship more, there should be more product, there should be less narrative. I think it's a cyclic thing. Web3 is open, and anyone can enter and try their version of product building and their version of company building in it. And they are not set. There are no set rules in Web3, which is great, which is why it's so exciting. There are no set rules. So I just take all these things with a pinch of salt. Product is the most important thing, I agree, but that's my personal opinion. But vision and narratives are also important. And so I don't think it's either or. People will have many takes on this. So that's what I think about. Web3 will have many truths, unlike Web2. Web2 has one truth. Web3 has many truths.
I think also it is because, normal users want to learn about your project. The best way for them is to enter your website. But I think Sentient is more for developers. That's why.
Sentient will have a strong developer component. Correct.
Mm-hmm. So do you have any further fundraising plans? How do you plan to use the current funds?
No immediate fundraising plan. Keep our head down and build. That's the plan for now. Although there is so much excitement, and it's hard to pause fundraising, but one has to build, and that because fundraising is just an indication of excitement and belief in what you're building. It's not the end, right? It's just a means to an end, and it's actually a pressure. It's actually a huge pressure for us to burden, because fundraising happens, seed fund especially happens based on the team's reputation, based on what they're ready to commit, what they're ready to show as skin in the game. So it's the personal commitment of the team, personal reputation at stake for the team. So there's a huge pressure. So more than fundraising, I think we want to focus on building. That's first part of it. And the fundraising part will be used specifically for building tech. That's what it will be used for, to build the AI offering. That's large part of it goes there. We are also very excited to usher in this Open AGI research thread. Open AGI is something in which Sentient participates. We believe, just like, actually this is to be very fair, this is a journey which OpenAI started. And they said we are non-profit and we will keep this tech out. And, I, for example, participated in it. We use OpenAI Gym for teaching in classes. And I know China, for example, it's very fascinating about China, about how deep the AI talent is in China and how it borrowed and thrived on all the open source things. So this was the era which OpenAI also started, right? And they themselves built on other things like BERT, which is from someone like Google. How beautiful is that, right? So Google built something on which OpenAI built, and then it's global. Be it China, be it India, be it US, be it Europe, everyone can use the same tools and build on it and work together. Now, OpenAI for some reason decided to go completely opposite and do something else. I'm sure they have a lot of reasons for that. We want to recreate a similar research thread. So this OpenAGI is a similar effort. Sentient is a contributor to that, and there are many other people contributing to that. So if you see OpenAGI Summit and other related conferences, they are now doing OpenAGI Symposium. That thread is already active. So one part of our funding is to make sure that this OpenAGI research and innovation continues and it thrives. And that's not just about Sentient. It's about everyone else who is at the forefront of that research. Okay, other crypto companies, academics, everyone, just like hopefully OpenAI had it in the early stages. And now I think in some sense Meta is spearheading. It's the same effort on the crypto side. Okay, this is one part of it. The other part of fundraise, of course, goes into building our own team, building our own tech, building Sentient AI, which is a singular AI offering, which will be very powerful in its reasoning capabilities. And then, of course, the blockchain protocol, which drives it, the key tech pieces, this piece called OML, which we are proposing, which drives this community build AI. That's what this fundraise will go into building.
So you are building your team. What kind of talent are you hoping to attract to Sentient?
The best kind. the best kind of talent. No, so we are hoping that we have hands-on AI guys, AI innovators. AI stack has various parts of it. So the top AI talent is, we are quite excited about it, both on the research and the engineering side. In AI, there is this very clear understanding of what is AI research, what is AI engineering. Typically, these boundaries are not so well drawn, but in AI, that boundary looks good. So we need talent on both sides. Both are difficult. Both are very new technologies and very, very noisy. So it's difficult to identify talent in both because you won't know what is good, what is not. But we're looking for that. And of course, on the blockchain side, we are looking for talented blockchain builders who are also good on the AI side. And most importantly, we are looking for individual builders who believe in open source, and not only the basic version of open source which we are used to, like an activist version, but the so-called, let's say, the version of open source which embraces capitalism, in the sense that a builder who wants to grow their own wealth by contributing to a larger project rather than for some other abstract cause. Just build, make great AI, and make money out of it.
And I read on your Notion paper that you guys are gonna using the fundraising, the seed fundraising to incentivize this kind of talent you are hiring.
Right. So not necessarily just the fundraising, but the whole premise of Sentient is that people who contribute to whatever AI Sentient is offering, and these contributions are not just like, it's not just data labeling or some small thing like that. It means you can contribute by giving a library, you can contribute by giving a model, you can contribute by giving a, let's say, something as complex as Olama, those pipelines. So people who contribute, they own that AI partly, and whatever happens with that AI, whatever money that AI makes, a part of it comes back to them. So the whole premise of Sentient is rewarding the contributors, and therefore obviously the fundraise also goes in that direction.
Okay, that is good. Let's move to the product part. How does Sentient's use of open source code and decentralization set it apart from traditional AI development platforms controlled by companies like Google and Meta?
Right. So the key part, if you think about, if you want contributors to own the tech, let's give OpenAI benefit of doubt and think about why did they actually become closed, right? They were doing well, and Elon Musk was participating, and they had who's who of Valley was participating, and it seems like it's not like everyone wanted to close. So at least the public domain narrative is, what my reading on this is, they discovered something very powerful. They wanted to grow it. For growing, they needed money, capital. How do you raise money without locking it, without making it close AI? What do you tell the VCs? How will we make money out of it, right? And that's the problem they couldn't solve. So an easy answer is no, it will not be open anymore. it will be like any company will close it, and it will grow and will make a lot of revenue, right? That's their story. That's why they closed. The question we want to answer in our technology, in our research is, was there an option for them to not close? Could they have grown the same GPT-1? GPT-1 was open, right? GPT. Okay. Could they have continued to grow that GPT to GPT 4.0 and 5 without making it closed? And while making sure that that library is publicly available, anyone can fork it, tune it, use it, and yet can they accrue the same value and the same revenue, right? This is the problem we want to solve. So we are working on a framework which we call Open Monetizable Loyal Models, OML models. These OML models are models that can be given to you to run. You can take it, you can deploy it in your favorite, with your favorite client for your favorite use case. You can build business around it. You can run it locally. But when those models are used, the protocol which controls that model gets to know that this model is being used, and the protocol can track that usage. Just with this piece, if you just solve this problem, whenever the model will be used, wherever it is used in the world, right, the protocol will be able to track the usage, and it will be able to contribute. It will be able to reward the contributors because it will know it's being used, and it's easy to maintain who contributed what. That's just a smart contract problem already solved. But what we need to solve is that when the model is used, when this model file is given to you, Kristen, and Kristen is running it in her local 3-people company or maybe in a bigger company, the protocol should know that this model is being used, and therefore I can charge you for it or reward you for it. And if you don't, charge you for it and then reward the contributors. And if you refuse to pay, then the model doesn't work. Or if you refuse to agree to the conditions of the protocol, the model doesn't work. This protocol is decentralized, of course. So when I say agree to the protocol, it's not like you're agreeing to one centralized force. You're agreeing to the whole decentralized community running that protocol, right? So you go back and you say, can I use it more? Can I use it more? And you get the permission every time and you use it. And that way we can track the value. This is the problem we are solving. We call it the OML models, Open Monetizable Loyal Models.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the OML is the part that we want to touch on, and you already mentioned how I think you already touched on this topic, like how OML address the challenges of AI, of open source AI development, right? And but for this part, I think there are some challengers. They are saying that the trade-offs and the incentives for different types of AI are different. Currently, the centralized way, they are proved to be the safest possible in the world to do this kind of technology. So they believe that maybe open source is unnecessary, and centralized technology will still domain the world in the future. How do you? What's your take on this perspective?
No, that's a very important point. Like, what? So let me just break it down into a few parts. First part, that there is no single OML answer, right? Because AI comes in all shapes and sizes, small model, large models, and not just models. Now it's beyond model. So first thing which we are very aware of is that there is no one single OML answer. There'll be a full library of multiple answers which one can choose. There can be an answer based on TEE. Some people are building based on, let's say, MPC, FHE. FHE, very hard technology to build with. And some people are like us. We have our own take on it, which will be releasing at SBC, our protocol, and how we are looking at an OML. But there can be multiple answers of OML to address different types of models, different types of AI artifacts, data sets, for instance, and ensuring the value is preserved in that. So that's the first part of it. I think second question which you're asking is, where does open source help and where does closed help? And how does the sort of the reward structure for open and closed work out, right? These are like, how does it work out? Is closed already the answer for everything? So monetization, if you look at OML, there are two parts to it, open and monetizable. These are two different properties. Okay. So open, let me first touch on open, our interpretation of open. Our interpretation of open has two parts. First is that anyone should be able to clone or fork that model and repurpose it for their use case. Okay. When I say anyone who takes permission from this protocol, of course, can take what the protocol has and run it. That's open. Already Meta is doing that. In some sense, all Meta models are open. Okay. There are some licensing limitations, but they are roughly open. That's one part. Open source has more meaning to it. This is something which Meta will never do. Open source also means that you make all the data available, which was used to build that model, or to fine-tune whatever you have fine-tuned. The reason a Meta would never do that is because this is very complicated in terms of regulator. Who has the liability for open source data? What if the data has something which has legal implications? So open source is different from open source is only one feature of open, and open distribution of model is the second part. We are targeting both of them, and open source has many advantages and many requirements. For instance, for auditing, for security, for safety, I want to check what data was used. So no one is denying those units of open. Open for distribution is the part which Meta is following. They are following that path. The alternative path is what OpenAI is saying, that no. We scale one single model to take care of everything, and we compete with everyone in the world. We'll have our search. Now they have search GPT. It's awful. It's so petty. Any big player wants others to build on them, and they should be proud of it, but they want themselves to build the whole thing. It's very petty, I feel. So you see that a company like OpenAI, no matter how big they become, will remain petty and would like to control the whole value. There was no reason for so whenever people are saying that closed is good enough and all that, they should see how OpenAI is behaving. They should see how they want to not only give you the APIs, but they want to give you everything over it. They want to eat people who are building on them as well. Why would they launch Search GPT, right? Someone else was already there, 5 variants of Search GPT equivalent already there, but they want to build everything, take care of all of it, eat Perplexity, eat everything, right? It's a nature of thing. Because they're raising that kind of capital, they will try to claim the whole thing, right? So no rescue from it. So that's why we have to be against close, because close will always take over everything. Close will also always eventually become authoritarian. And I think that's why the China example is good there. China probably is at the receiving end of this closed world, because it's being used as an example shown to the US regulators just to get some favors and just to get some unfair advantages. Like when Sam Altman wrote in Washington Post yesterday, right? He wrote something yesterday about how we should all align in the mission of democratizing AI. His interpretation of democratizing AI is US controls AI with its consortium and helps US companies control the spread of AI. For sure, you won't agree with that notion of democratizing AI. So the benefits of closed AI in terms of efficiency, which are early benefits, number one, have a lot of other dangers and humanity level dangers. Okay, it will all, because you raise large capital, you start locking everything, you start getting unfair advantages only also from the regulators, you start aligning socio-political forces to win and to justify that kind of capital. Last point I want to make is this open versus closed. You can see now it's happening very regularly. Yeah, closed goes somewhere, open catches up in 6 months. Closed goes somewhere, open catches up in 6 months. So this difference, right, that open will never get there and closed will always remain, is not true. And that's where companies like Meta, I really appreciate what they're doing. They're pouring these resources to start this innovation ecosystem. Hopefully players like Sentient can contribute to Meta's mission, to have an equivalent, competitive, open ecosystem. That's like Meta's mission, right? Meta is saying that, okay, whatever OpenAI is doing, if we just give away models to the people, they will build an equivalent, and even not equal, maybe better and more diverse and more interesting ecosystem of offerings, which will capture more value in AI. That's Meta's thesis. We go with this thesis that you can have same ecosystem with open models, and where people can deploy. There's more flexibility. There's more innovation that can happen on it, and more local fine tuning. This is the long answer to your short question.
Okay, that's really amazing to have this thoughtful idea. Let's move to some hot topics that people are asking. But I think you already mentioned this part. Is how do you see the historical shift between centralized power structures and decentralized networks playing out in the context of AI development? I think you already mentioned this part in your previous answer. But open source versus closed. Do you think that open source will dominate in the end? in the end of the world?
This is a question it's close to my heart. So I think it took me some time to understand this because I was growing up during that revolution. I think we are the generation who has seen a revolution in this basic thinking. Many forces aligned. So if you think about open source software, starting from even late 50s, one can say it starts, but let's say 70s, 80s, 90s, a lot of open source development happened, right? And Linux and almost all software, internet, the basic foundations of internet, which led to TCP/IP, they were built around open source quite a bit. But here is a key difference. People who were building those open source software were activists. There was an activism, fight the power activism. Okay, that they were exceptional people, and it was not normal thing. It is not normal to build open source. They were saying, no, we'll fight the power. People who were screaming at Steve Jobs in Apple developer meeting and saying, hey, you promised open and now you're closing. And then Steve Jobs is defending himself. He's saying, no, you see, I have come to this conclusion to create value. One has to very carefully tread the line between open and close. He's justifying all that, right? He's thinking from business perspective. How does the company sustain and go forward? But open source was an activism in the 90s. Okay. The best open source guys, what were they doing for a living? They basically joined big companies, right? They joined Google. So they make money with closed source only. Their source of income is not open source. Some threads sustain and some economy got created, but roughly activists who tell you how new world should look like. But what's the next version of that? Now comes the next decade, 2000, 2010. This is where social networks come in. Later, Twitter comes in. Okay. Now the world becomes very different suddenly. Now the world is becoming in a way that the dependence on intermediaries, a player who will collect many things and help you discover the value of what you have built, is going down. We don't need to go for a job in a Google or a big company to realize our aspirations as an innovator. For example, I have never worked in a big company. I mean, I've almost seduced to it several times, cleared the interview, but then decide, no, I want to be in academia. That's the charm of academia. That I want to control my innovation. I want to just purely do whatever I want to do. And the question is, can you make money with this? So the social media told us that you can win elections, you can build your own brand without any third-party approval. That's why this TikTok creator, this whole creator economy came around, right? Which is now thriving, right? Every day you are watching the short videos is a testimony of how creator economy is working out without approval of this big brand, big production houses, big movie houses, right? This is the creator economy which came out. There is no surprise that blockchain took off at the same time. It's because these new forces are coming up where everyone wants to express their innovation directly, and not because of activism, because they want to earn money that way. They just want to do the work this way. This is the way I want to work. I want to do the interesting work. I want to do what I find interesting. I want to innovate there, and I want to make my livelihood out of it and convert it automatically into company. It's a very new requirement. It's the requirement of the next generation of aspirational humanity. This is how we want to operate. I don't want an intermediary validation from third party. So the tailwind is in this direction. This ends in a place where people are contributing in open and value is still created and contributors get rewarded. I'm pretty sure this will happen. We just saw it happening in videos and image and all the creator economy. It will also happen in software. It is just the beginning. We've just been 2 decades into it. 50 years down the line, there will be many, many superstar open contributors, one-person company billionaires who would have just made money because they wrote one very important library in the software. And it will be recognized as their library, not as someone who worked in a bigger company which made that big money. So this is the next economy we are going towards. I completely believe in it. And I believe in the long term, this open source, what we are calling open source, will look more like the creator economy on the internet from the software side.
Yes, it's a new model of economy and more about the shifting of a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Okay, so regarding to build this kind of world, what are the key challenges in developing decentralized AI alternatives in a landscape dominated by highly centralized tech paradigms?
Okay, that's a great question. To begin with, there are software and cryptography level challenges, which is what Sentient is addressing, which is what we all know GitHub. We all know Hugging Face is building on something like GitHub repo management. What is this next generation of repository management where people who contributed to that control it, right? That's roughly the question. What cryptographic primitives are needed? And this, we believe, is not one size fit all answer. It depends on what you're storing in that repo. For us, the first focus is if that repo is storing these model files, let's for now, because all the excitement is around transformers, so let's say the LLM and transformer architecture models for now, then what should that repo management look like? So that's first technical challenge which we are working on, and we are making very good progress on it. And it's like the ZK equivalent for AI. That's what you have to solve. Okay, so this is first challenge. I think this will be solved. I think next 5 years you will see a lot of work on this, and not just us. There are other people working on it, and we'll see a lot of progress on it. There's another force which is strongly against this kind of thing, which is the infra, the compute infra, the GPUs themselves. First at the cloud level, and then next at the GPU level itself. I feel that the cloud level, there is at least a path, although it's very hard right now. There's at least a path with which we can challenge it, because at the end, cloud providers are taking the GPUs and putting a very good orchestration and tool chain above it, and other players can also do it. So players who are on in decentralized infra providers, decentralized GPU providers have a chance there. They should focus not only on getting bigger clusters at same places, but also focus on building the right tool chain. In fact, I would say that if they build the right tool chain, right now the AI part is very forgiving in its performance. There are many different applications where performance will not become the bottleneck. I mean, they're not most valuable one, but people are forgiving right now. You are okay to wait for your answer for some time. For example, like the hottest topic from yesterday is math solving, alpha maths, right? It solves a lot of math problems. So no one has any rush. If you give a math problem to a bot, you can sleep and wake up and it gives the answer. You'll still be excited about it. If it took 5 minutes, no problem. So there are enough use cases where performance won't matter, but what will matter is how good is your tool chain. I don't want to get my tooth removed to run a model. Make it easy for me. So that's the next barrier, but I think that can be addressed to some extent. For me, the biggest barrier right now is the hardware itself, how GPUs are, NVIDIA, a big dominating force, and then the TPU itself, Google's TPU architecture. These are big barriers. I think decentralizing and making that open will be a huge challenge. And that requires innovations in the architecture itself. We have relied a lot on transformers. They will get challenged if transformers change. For example, Google's TPU approach is completely optimized for transformers. Tomorrow, if transformers go away, I don't know what Google will. They will lose a lot of money. So I think so. There's vested interest in people preserving this transformer architecture. That's why everything is building over them. No one is revisiting it and trying a completely new architecture, because now hardware is optimized for that architecture. So those are the hardest forces which are collecting. But what is refreshing is if you look at the success of NVIDIA, it still rests on success of their open source CUDA library. And so that's quite refreshing that even that centralizing force succeeded because of open source CUDA, right? Compared to AMD, like AMD can compete with NVIDIA in terms of hardware, but they will not be able to compete in terms of what NVIDIA did with CUDA. It will take a decade to build that kind of ecosystem where we are trained on it from the days of college, and when we come to the world, then we already are trained in it. So there is a hope that even the most centralized of technical forces like hardware succeed because community adopts them through open source framework like CUDA. But I think this is the hardest piece right now. The biggest centralizing force is hardware right now. And that is why it's no surprise that the regulators and let's say the centralizing forces try to control the hardware flow. Easy to regulate. You just have to call one single company and tell them that, hey, be careful about what you do, right? It's so centralizing. And today, if you want to disrupt AI in a company, in a country, all you have to do is tell NVIDIA that don't deliver H200 to them for 2 years, right? That's it. So it delays things by some time. So, it's so easy. This is why centralizing forces are bad. It takes one political agenda to disrupt the whole thing because it's so easy to control. It's just one single company, right? And that's why so I think this is the biggest risk. The centralizing force in the hardware right now, because there's others we have answers to.
Yeah, it's a long way to go. And this part is, let's talk about the types of AI and because AI is a general word, and the people are talking about AI, but they're not knowing that which part of AI they're talking about. So when we're talking about AI, so we are talking about the chatbot or ChatGPT, or we are talking about the AGI or AI or the AI that could dominate the world and colonize galaxies, this kind of stuff. And also, what part that Sentient play in the whole picture?
Excellent. That's a great question, actually. Actually, all your questions are very good, are making me think. So you are right that AI is a brand name which became mainstream. It was always mainstream in popular culture, but if you look at universities, just 6-7 years ago, or maybe at least 10 years ago, no serious course on AI was there. There was nothing called AI, a course on AI, nothing. Like what will you teach in that course? And you can go to 90s, and there were some AI courses in the 90s. You can look at CMU, there are some courses there, Stanford had some, but they're very different from what we are calling AI now. Inductive reasoning and some very strange, very strange topics. You won't recognize those topics anymore. Human thinking, how humans perceive things, very strange psychology type courses were there, and some algorithmic threads were there. This is a brand name, and brand names are great to get human attention, right? So AI, basically now what we are calling AI, is sum total of all the innovations in ML, optimization, statistics over the last century. It's all collectively called AI. And it's great because that way all those technologies find a new home and everyone can start innovating and pushing them again. It's great for business. Businesses can again ask their leaders, hey, we want to put money in AI. And leaders are easy to, leaders understand meta signals. So they're like, okay, everyone is talking about AI. Let me open up my money bag and give some money for building AI. So it simplified the whole innovation. AI is a lot of things. It's huge, century-old work across statistics, optimization, algorithms, hardware, all packaged as AI. Okay. This is so far. But now, going forward, people have a notion of AI because they have started experiencing it. So now we all know what AI is. What comes to my mind when I think of what AI is a chatbot, which is answering in a way as if I'm talking to a human. Is the home automation stuff. I have used both Google Home and Alexa, and the way they interact with me is improving. That's AI for me. So I have now a notion of AI, which is building in my head. But it's in my head, okay? The consumer has realized what is AI somewhat. In the same vein, AGI, super intelligence, these are brand names, okay? A company can have some interpretation of it, but right now they're outside a consumer imagination. So until they enter consumer imagination, we don't know what people will call AGI. We don't know what will become AGI because it's just a brand name. I can tell you in the next part what Sentient thinks is AGI and what are we building, what is we are focusing on AI. But AGI, super intelligence, even safety, safe AI. We don't know what safe AI is. Safety is not one thing. Safety has many features. Are you talking about privacy? Are you talking about alignment? Are you talking about fairness? Or all of those? If all of those, there's no good answer. Like they're all research problems, very different domains of it. So what will be AGI? What are these grades of AI? Well, the market will tell us. Doesn't matter what branding gurus try to get down, push down our throat. Okay. Now coming to Sentient, what is AGI for Sentient? Why do we insist on saying we're building AGI, okay, and not AI? So this is a very important point for us. So Sentient is building AI, which is powerful in its reasoning capabilities. From day one, we have only gone for that, and there's a very specific reason for that. Reasoning is that part of intelligence which is not grown as a monolith. It's grown by interaction and evolution. I'll give you an example. So let's draw parallels with humans, right? Every animal walks. It's very difficult to walk. It's very difficult to build a road. But every animal naturally walks. Okay, it doesn't take you're using calories, so your heart rate goes up and all that. But you're not thinking too much when you're walking. Just so easy for you to think. But you're solving a very complex mechanical problem, balancing so many joints and keeping your back straight, creating the right pressure through hundreds of neurons in all your muscles so that you're standing straight. Very hard to create a bot which has this kind of flexibility and it walks. But it's so easy for humans or any animal. Every animal can do it. I draw parallel with this kind of intelligence with LLM. LLM is this kind of intelligence. It's exceptionally surprising. It's superhuman, but everyone has it. No big deal. We are never impressed with it. We are never impressed when we see someone walking. It's so simple. But it's the hardest part. Took billion years of evolution to walk. What we are most impressed with the last 10,000 years, right? What happened in the last 10,000 years? And what we call brilliant, genius, high IQ. Something which reflects just last 1,000 years or maybe last 100 years of knowledge, right? Doesn't reflect a long-term evolutionary success. So what is this part of intelligence? This part of intelligence is something which is built over the core biological intelligence. So LLM is the core biological intelligence. Over it, there is a layer which is about problem solving, doing specific things like engineering design, software development, math problem solving, long horizon tasks like scheduling, planning, city planning. These are all skills which humans have shown over the last 2,000, 3,000 years, maybe 10,000 years. Okay, let's give all the benefit of doubt to all the cultures. So 10,000 years, but very minuscule time frame. This is the reasoning layer. Okay, so today, if you look at where AI is going, when we started saying it, this was not there. Everyone is talking about the reasoning layer. There's a core AI, which is LLM, and there's a reasoning layer which sits over it. This reasoning layer comprises the agents. It comprises the search algorithms which assist those agents. It comprises the external code which is brought in to solve a specific problem. Okay, and that's the part Sentient is focusing on, the reasoning layer which sits over the core LLM, because that's the part which will create the value. We love the experience which we have on this chatbots, but if you look at any eval, any benchmark, the numbers that you see are just 70%, 60% accuracy numbers. That's enough to surprise us. It was 20, 30% earlier. It looked awful. At 60, 70, we like it. But it's nowhere close to what it takes to build, let's say, a Google Maps. Accuracy of an app like that. It's 95, 98% is what someone was telling me, an expert was telling me. At 98%, Google Map makes sense because you don't want to take a right turn into a river. You want to have a road there, right? So they have very high bar of accuracy. To bridge this 70% to 98% gap is not the responsibility of LLM alone. It's the responsibility of this reasoning layer sitting over it, right? And that's where Sentient is focusing, because that's where also a lot of different ideas can come in, compete, and the best one can win. That's the natural collaborative space of ideas. So that's what we are focusing on. And reasoning is the indication of AGI for us. So our articulation of AGI is AI with reasoning layer with more exceptional reasoning capability will be AGI. But there's a very theoretical definition of AGI. What will become AGI is something which we will slowly realize. The market will tell us. We can't say. Just like we couldn't say what will be AI. Now we see it, so we say, oh, AI, I understand. Chatbots are AI. Yeah, I understand. Open ChatGPT is AI. Yeah. But it's after the market is telling us. We never saw that as AI just 10 years back. It's just now we learned that's what AI is. So what AGI will be, what people will agree is AGI, we learn from the market. But Sentient's definition of AGI is AI which is exceptionally gifted in its reasoning capabilities.
Wow, there's a tons of knowledge. Okay, and to wrap up our interview, there's a last topic I want to touch on. That is, the open source and they are changing the lifestyle of the people. This is very ideal. But consumers, from the experience, every generation of consumers, they choose the most practical and convenient product rather than the ideal solutions. And it is true that the centralized companies, they are dominating the market. So is it possible that in the future people are still use their product but compromised with a little bit about the decentralization in?
Absolutely. We can all lose if we build boring stuff. There's no doubt in my mind. People are very sharp. Markets are very sharp in teaching you. So we can do all this theory, and I can bring in my experience of life and what I learned and how I'm building. All this is theory. Doesn't matter. At the end, it has to be an exceptional AI product. If it's not user friendly, if people don't have joy in using it, if it's not, if it doesn't put spy on your face when you use it, then all this is crap. No one cares, and no one should care. I mean, that's the power of, that's the divine justice in how things are set up. So that's why Canva is a great startup, and there are thousands of other deep tech companies failing, and they're saying, oh, why is Canva creating all this excitement? Well, it's a beautiful product to begin with. Humanity has always loved this kind of, the joy of this thing, right? The joy of technology cannot be discounted. And so this is another risk factor. This is not only for AI, it's for the whole of blockchain now, right? That if we don't build, I'm a late entrant to the whole crypto ecosystem, although I'm a cryptographer and I've studied theory side of it. But one thing I see is that even in the last 3 years, the whole discussion became a bit boring in the middle. There was boring, oh, let's look at this technology piece, which is, there's a modular narrative which was floating around, and it is so boring, so complex. There'll be this, and then there'll be this bridge, and then there'll be this proof. It's good, but it's a bit boring. At the end, all this is inside under the hood. right? What matters is the final output, like the talk of the town, poly market, right? So what matters is something as simple as that, right? The great products that we'll build will determine the success of the whole thing. So no discount from that, no rescue from that. Sentient is very aware of it. We also want to judge our success based on what user experience you get when you come to Sentient platform and use our AI. What we have done to build it and all that is a story for someone else. It's for contributors and it's for those guys. But at the end, the success of the whole thing depends on how simple and joyful the product is. So that's always the case.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, I think we've touched a lot about the Sentient and your ideas. I think our community gonna be love it, and but I think there are more to explore about Sentient. I think maybe in the future we can invite you back again to communicate more with our community.
Absolutely, we are here. I'm going to be at it forever, looks like. So we are going nowhere. This is just the beginning. So many years to go. So we are here.
Okay. Thank you for your time, and may everything about you and Sentient great success in the future.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.